The reason that I thought about Jay is first 2 minutes of the movie, probably the best scene. Girl plays with the Ouija board by herself. Definitely not what you're supposed to do. But she's a stereotypical dumb white bitch in the movie, so she does it anyway. But after it is that she gets done with this Ouija board, I guess she gets possessed somehow. And then 2 minutes later, hangs herself off of her banister with a set of Christmas lights. And the first thing it is that I thought of after I saw that was Lego Hitler. And that's why I think that Jay Armstrong is ready for the big time, because that means that both Jay Armstrong and a movie producer both had the thought, how can I take a symbol of happiness and make it pure evil? Oh man, but no, it's been a pretty interesting week. Been trying to get back into shape recently. The hotel it is that I work at was actually nice enough to let me use the exercise room and the pool. I do the pool more often now, but I was doing the exercise room until we started getting guest complaints. I guess there was a lady upstairs that had basically thought there was a domestic situation that was going on, and I didn't find out about it until I went down to the front desk. Said that this lady called down and said, I heard just loud thuds and somebody screaming, "You fat bastard, how did you let it get to this point?" So, you know, it's just pretty interesting. I love doing comedy, man. I just like, where it is that I get my sense of humor from is kind of weird. I get it from both my parents, I think, pretty much for the most part. You know, my dad's got that really laid back, like kind of that lame sense of humor. It is that everybody's got that one relative like that. Like, you know, I'll just be sitting in a room with both of my parents and my mom will say something like, I'm hungry. And my dad will just look over at her. He's like, I'm Bill. That's it. That's the whole joke. But, you know, on the other side of that, my mom wasn't raised in the greatest environment growing up, and so she's kind of crazy. And I think I get my sense of humor from her, too, because I picked her up from work one day. She works at the IRS, and that's not a fun gig when you have to call people to tell them that they owe you money for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so I picked her up, and she's sitting in the passenger seat of the van, and I'm talking to her. I was like, you know, I don't know how it is that you do that. Like, I really don't. Like, there's no way I could do that 8 hours a day. And she's like, well, you know, honey, everybody has their way of dealing with it. You know, for me, I just go out on my lunch hour, roll down my windows, and yell, "Fuck you!" to everybody in Covington. So, there's that. And, you know, I kind of envy her for working at the IRS, because for a lot of years before it is that I worked at the hotel, I was actually in IT. I did technical support over the phone, which wasn't really a fun gig, because at a job like that, you have to worry about customer service and being nice to people. IRS, you don't have to do that so much. Like, I'd have so many calls where I'd just be sitting there talking to a guy over the phone. It's like, okay, you're looking for a black cord. You're going to unplug that from the back of the router, plug it back in, and we should be good to go. No, you should only see one black cord. No, that's going into the wall outlet. The other one's for your printer, sir. No, we're looking for the router. The thing that you called me about, that it wasn't working. Like, and it just gets so goddamn frustrating after a while. Like, I just want to sit there just one time while I was at that job and be on the phone. It's like, okay, Mr. Johnson, Will, you mind if I call you Will? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you to place both hands on the sides of your neck, and I'm going to count to 3. And when I say 3, I want you to pull your head out of your ass, and I'm just going to reset your router from here. So, but yeah. No, it's pretty interesting working out at the hotel. I like it. It's a lot more laid back. It's not a desk job. You actually get to walk around, interact with people, and, you know, I'm pretty personable. Like, you know, I do that 8 hours a week, so, I mean, coming up and doing comedy after talking to complete strangers for 8 hours a day is pretty much no big deal, but there's just, you run into all kinds of characters up at the hotel. Like, I remember there was this one time I had a guy that was up at the bar, and he was Greek. The majority of my family on my mom's side is all Italian, and, you know, which is a great conversation to bring. Basically, he was arguing with me over whose civilization was better. And I had the realization this is the first time I've been at a bar with somebody drinking with me that wasn't my girlfriend that decided to bring up ancient fucking history. But we're sitting there talking about it, and number one, I knew I was okay going into it because I'm a big history buff, so I can pretty much hold my own in any kind of a discussion like that. But, you know, he starts off with the whole, it's like, you know, well, the Greeks, we discovered the stars and planetary alignment and blah, blah, blah. And I go, it's like, well, you know, the Italians, you know, we perfected architecture, and, you know, Leonardo da Vinci's designs are what most of technology is based off of nowadays. And this just goes back and forth for 5 or 10 minutes, and finally he throws a curveball at me. He goes, you know, we invented sex. I sat there and thought about it for a minute. I looked back at him and I was like, yeah, but we invented it with women. So there was that guy. And, you know, being a comic, sometimes I have trouble kind of separating the comedian guy from the hotel guy. And, you know, I like to cut up and joke with people that come in, and there's just, the thing that bugs me the most, one of my pet peeves is somebody that's just entirely too serious all the time, just all about business, never strays away from the line. And there's a guy like that that comes in fairly often. His name's Mr. Picard. He's an Indian gentleman. He actually works for Toyota. And this guy comes in at least once a week, so, like, I'm familiar with him. We're familiar with each other. Like, you know, we've seen each other, we've interacted, we've talked. But yet, every time it is that he calls me to make a reservation, he always feels the need to spell his name out phonetically, like I don't know who he is. So he'll be sitting there, and it's like, it's P as in Peter, A as in Apple, T as in Tom, and just every single time he calls. And so I decided, like, this is a challenge for me because I have never seen this guy laugh. So I felt challenged to make him laugh. And so the last time he calls me with this reservation, he does the whole phonetic spelling thing. And I go, okay, Mr. Picard, so that was P as in pterodactyl, A as in augment, K as in knife, A as in aisle, and T as in tsunami. And there was a silence for a second. And the only thing it is I heard on the other end of the phone is, that is correct. Son of a bitch. Can't win for losing. That's my time tonight, guys. Thank you very much. Woo!